Hi students, welcome to your week 6 highlights video. So in this video today, since the other video from the undergraduate course covered most of the readings for this week, this video only considers one reading and it was a really short one. So the Rose and Schreiber User Experience and Technical Communication Beyond Intertwining. Now this was the editor's introduction to a special issue of a journal, and you could make that out from reading the first paragraph. So I've included this special issue introduction in our course because it takes a retrospective view on how far we've come or how far we haven't come, as the case may be, since Barnum and Reddish's important publications a decade ago. And those have been referred to in a lot of work that you've read over the last 6 weeks. So they were very significant and stage setting, as I guess you might say. And so this special issue of the journal, which only had 3 essays in it, took on some of the major themes from Barnum and Reddish. So Rose and Schreiber take on some of these key concepts from Reddish and Barnum and also inquire into what has been described as TPC's position as, quote, providing a necessary ethical component to usability in UX. So by this point, most of the supplementary videos that I've created in the class talk about this aspect, the necessary ethical component. The readings that you've done, like the textbook readings that you've done, such as in the Rubin and Chisnell book or the Barnum book, those are books that are interwoven throughout the whole semester. Those are more guidebooks that tell you about the how-to of actually running usability tests. Everything that is sort of scaffolded in to support that in the course talks about these ethical components and other aspects that we must consider. So Rose and Schreiber take on the 4 areas where Reddish projected TPC would contribute to UX, and they were collaboration, communication, complexity, and change. Referring to Reddish's work and Natasha Jones's work, and I've mentioned Natasha's work, she was a former colleague here at UNM, mentioning her work, Rose and Schreiber identify advocacy as a through line across all 4 categories that I just named on that previous slide here: collaboration, communication, complexity, and change. So advocacy, how does it pertain to communication? How does it pertain to change? So how do we go about foregrounding through UX work the role of TPC outputs? And a TPC output is anything that a technical writer creates, right? It could be an instructional video, it could be the documentation that comes with a medical prescription, it could be a proposal. There's so many outputs that TechCom folks create. So how do we, in those outputs, reduce harm to the users of them or to the audience for them? So among the author's predictions, or perhaps rather their hopes, is that UX will continue to engage conversations about the social and material consequences of design. That's from Sano Franchini, 2017. So in some of the texts that you've read for the class, the social and material consequences of design have been directly considered. If you're taking notes while you're watching this video, it might be worth pausing the video to write down just a quick list of examples from those works where you have been able to discern the social or material consequences of design, good design or bad design. So I threw this bullet point in here just because this was a head scratcher for me. I'm surprised by the cited statistic from Clegg et al. 2020 that only 3% of TPC courses at the undergraduate level focus on user experience. I wonder about that statistic. That's not the only term they used in that quote, but audience analysis is in a way user experience analysis or user research, right? To inquire into who your audience is. Now on the screen here, I'm showing from a company called Wow Makers, a persona. This is a user persona, and this shows some of the attributes that would be important relative to this, to a company's design of a product or their revision of a product. So they've got their sort of average user stereotyped or represented via this persona. So they have the person's name, a picture, what their profession is, a standout quote from this person, their age, their location, their education, how tech savvy they are. That's in this particular example meant to dovetail with whatever product changes or product development is ongoing at this time. Physical activities, goals, and frustration. So this is a audience profile, as it were, called a persona, that is used in the UX space. In tech comm, for decades, audience profile sheets have been used. Those are sometimes used to identify the needs of a specific user, but sometimes they're more generalizations, like a persona would be. So I just found that statistic to be a little bit confusing, and I'm wondering if the terminologies of the study were used differently, whether what they found in undergraduate tech comm programs would have been different. So the articles in the special issue, which you didn't read, but they were mentioned in this brief introduction, they shine light on the relationship right now between TPC and UX. 2 of these 3 articles concern healthcare or medicine, or both terms. So what do you make of that? I know that usability is crucial in terms of patients seeking safe and appropriate care, or people who are advocates for patients striving to get complete, safe, and accurate information, or having medical interfaces like, say, an app, or when I go to my MyPress portal, having that make sense to me, be intuitive to me. Those are justice issues, right? And that is a very important space for people to receive clear, concise, and quite frankly, usable information. But that's not the only space in which ethical user-oriented design is, I guess, trending upward, to use kind of a crude expression. So I found it interesting that 2 of the 3 articles in the special issue concerned that particular sub-area within UX. And I'm going to conclude this short video, because there's only 1 article this week, with this question here. Do you agree with the author's statements that UX has grown into its own field with methods, trajectories, and communities? Based on what you've read this semester, it would appear that UX is still a very interdisciplinary field. I'm not sure about this claim that it has its own, as if this is a singular thing, unified thing, methods, trajectories, and communities. Yes, there is the UXPA, which is the Professional Association for Practitioners in the field of UX. Yes, that is a community, and there are subgroups within that. And then there are people in TechCom who are interested in usability, and we are our own community. But to identify it as an explicit thing at this time, I think might be a bit premature, and does misrepresent, perhaps, the still existent diffuse nature, or the intertwined nature even, of the subdisciplines that we've talked about a lot this semester in these videos and in the readings that have comprised UX work. So I'm curious, does the author scholarship you've read this semester support this claim? Maybe it does, based on your reading of it. Or do you, like me, wonder whether it's a bit of a jumping the gun situation to say that the field itself has coalesced at this time? And we're always looking for ways to think about how TPC has maybe become a part of that unification of an identity around UX as a field, or whether we're still on the outside looking in. So those are some of the big questions that I wanted you to think about for this week. Glad I was able to keep this video under 10 minutes for this week, and it's been great reading your discussion board posts, and I'm still excited to have you in this class, and I will see you in next week's video.